In this video, I'm going to show you one of my favorite techniques to teach a horse to ride bridleless. Hope you enjoy it. Those of you that have been following this channel, you know that I'm really a big believer in building a connection with a horse, meaning I want the horse to choose to do my idea versus making them do it. And so the bottom line is, we're going to try to set up a scenario where we're not going to pull the horse with our reins to go where we want. We're going to try to get them to choose to step where we want by asking them to yield off our leg. Now, where the secret sauce comes in is if they don't step off our leg, which they won't when they're new to this, is we're going to reinforce our leg with a stick instead of reinforcing our leg with our rein. See, when you're first developing a horse, they need to understand how to give to the bit and be willing to let us control them with one rein or two reins, and that sort of thing. Okay, but if we're going to advance that, we're looking for the horse to want to choose to do what we want, and so we're going to try to use no reins. Okay, so for instance, instead of using both reins to back up, I might take my legs and go like this and see if I could get my horse to back up with no reins. Okay, now the secret technique of this video is going to be using a stick to reinforce our leg instead of the rein. So the way we're going to set this up is like this. You're going to ride the horse, and step one is going to be to make sure the horse is comfortable with the stick, that they're not afraid of it, and then also that the rider is comfortable handling the stick. So make sure you can pass the stick from hand to hand, that sort of thing. And then the first goal that I have is to teach the horse that the stick means slow down and turn more, okay? So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to ride around, say at a walk here, and I'm going to bring the stick down by their nose, and I'm going to ask them to do a yield. In this case, I'm going to ask her to do a 4/4 yield. But now you notice she put her weight back on her haunches. That was the slow down part. Then she moved her shoulder over. That's the turn more part, okay? So that means if she associates the stick with bringing her momentum backward and turning, that's going to set us up to where we could trot around and we could put our leg on to ask her to turn. And if she didn't turn, I could reinforce that with the stick, okay? So that lends itself to then being able to put the reins down and ride leg, stick. Very good. Leg, so I'm using my left leg here. She didn't go, so I'd use the stick. And again, when you're first starting this, if you feel like you bring the stick down and they speed up at all, bring the stick all the way down and kind of impede their forward movement with it by blocking and wait for them to bring their weight back. Now, would you have to do this in order to ride bridleless? No. But I do think the stick becomes a really useful bridge between riding with your reins and riding without reins. But the bottom line is, if you want to get to where you can do things and have a higher connection, you have to do less first, which means we can't go to our reins to turn or to stop right away. We have to use our legs, we have to use our seat. So that is the underlying concept that is the most important to hang on. But I find that if people have a stick in their hand and they can use that, they feel it's easier for a person to do that versus having the capacity to put their leg on and not use the reins until they absolutely have to. So if I had a horse that I had a lot of go, and one of the things preventing me from being able to ride them bridleless was the fact that they were really forward, and I felt like I always had to use my reins to slow them down. Instead of using my stick to yield their shoulder, I would use the stick to block here, and I would use my leg to move their hindquarters, okay? So think of the hindquarters as like the engine of the car, right? If they're thinking about going faster, they're engaging this. When I ask them to do that little yield, we're disengaging, we're turning off the hindquarters, okay? That mentally and emotionally helps the horse kind of decompress and settle. So that's a really key element to this. So as many times as you would need to, if you had a horse with a lot of go, as soon as you felt them, whoa, they're taking off too fast, reach down, bend them down with the stick and use your leg, get those hindquarters to yield. Now the other secret to this is if they're really wound up, those hindquarters are going to be going really fast, okay? And so the secret is you got to stay there with your leg and hold and wait for those feet to get slower, more sticky. This is going to tell you that mentally that horse is choosing to slow down and decompress. They're changing mental states there. So that's a really important part of this technique working. From there, once you have that established where you can ride, and you know that at any time with the stick you can bring that horse down to a, to a standstill, then you can start to experiment with trying to not use your reins. So just for the video's sake, I'm going to tie up my reins here, and I'm going to see if I can ride her around like this. So I have a couple of positions here. So if she's cutting the circle off and I want to, widen out, I'm going to use my inside leg here at position 2. I'm going to see if I can push her out further like that. And she did a good job there, okay? If that didn't work, I would have used the stick down here on this side as well, okay? And then the second part is, okay, if I decide I want to turn more to the left, my right leg, my outside leg, is going to come forward, position 1. Ask her to move her shoulder. Very good, okay? Now, if you're not sure about these leg positions, you can refer back to a video that I made called 54 yields, which sounds complicated, but if you go watch that video, it's actually pretty simple, okay? So, focus, leg, stick. Now you can see I'm not even having to touch her with the stick, but if I did need to touch her with the stick, I would use it as just kind of a block. I would just kind of hold the stick like this and ask them to step off of it. And again, if you had a more reactive horse, you'd spend lots of time just kind of moving the stick around and just kind of petting them with it, making sure they're A-okay with everything. Very good. Now, the proof is kind of in the pudding here. Now we'll see if we can not use our stick. I'm going to try to turn right here. You can see she's stepping off that leg to turn right. And what this stick allows by not using the reins is that there's a strong connection mentally to the rider's legs and what they're asking that horse to do. And to me, it feels really good to ride a horse where you just feel like you can just look where you want to go, press that button on their side and just have that horse turn and yield wherever you're wanting to go. Very good. Let's see if we can even do this at a lope. And then change our seat. Ooh. Very good. Now, there is one drawback to doing this that some people might point out in the comments. If you ride on a loose rein all the time, the horse can bring their head up and kind of get in bad postures compared to if you picked up contact and you ask the horse to be in a better frame. This is position. So, my perspective on this is they're both equally important. Connection, this riding without your reins helps build a stronger connection. Riding with your reins helps develop better position. So at the end of the day, I think both are equally important, but I would place connection before position because in my opinion, if that horse mentally is understanding what you're asking them to do and they're on the same page, everything is going to go so much faster and easier, and the horse is going to be more relaxed and comfortable while you're doing it, and it will lead to training those positions quicker and easier. So yeah, go out there, get yourself a stick, practice riding around, getting your horse to step off the stick, and use that to reinforce your legs instead of your reins. So hope this video helps. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you guys later.